Welcome back, or welcome to Real Talk with Chuck and Pam. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a couple of new movies along with some additional information about movies we've seen and interviews we've done, as well as what the horizon looks like for.
Look at what you did there.
I know, isn't that good?
That's
Um,
good.
So, Chuck, you saw one and did an interview that I unfortunately didn't get a chance to see, and it had a star in it that I absolutely adore, and actually two stars that I really adore. Tell us about The Dead Don't Hurt and your interview, and maybe even talk a little bit about how that might have changed your perspective a little bit.
Yeah, The Dead Don't Hurt is written and directed by Viggo Mortensen. He also is in the film and did the music. I was fortunate enough to interview him and his co-star Vicky Krieps, as well as Danny Houston, who has a supporting role in it as well. Obviously, a very personal project on Mr. Mortensen's part. He plays an immigrant who has settled in a town outside of Utah. He's very much to himself, but he has a wandering spirit, as so many people who went out west did. And on a trip to San Francisco, he meets Vivian, played by Vicky Krieps, and she is very much a fish out of water. She's French Canadian, and she doesn't suffer any fools. Very independent, an artist, and has no problems telling men what she thinks of them, and putting them in their place if need be. They have an immediate attraction, and he takes her home with her. She agrees to marry him. She's not too impressed with this ramshackle shack that he has on the outskirts of town. She complains there's no trees, there's nothing going on, and that hurts him a little bit. They're just getting their feet under them when the Civil War breaks out. And Olson, played by Mortensen, decides he needs to join the army. He feels as though it's a moral imperative that fighting for the end of slavery is something he has to do. And so he does, and leaves her out in basically the wilderness by herself to fend for herself, to hold down the homestead. She gets bored really quick. And there's a nearby town. She goes in and she gets a job at the bar. But she comes under the eye of this guy named Winston Jeffries, and this guy is a psychopath, an absolute psychopath. His father is a cattle baron, so he's able to gloss over all of his mistakes, makes sure he stays out of jail, and he has his eye on Vivian. And one night he pays her a visit, and let's just say it doesn't go very well. What's interesting about this film is that, 99 times out of 100, a Western is the purview of men, and heroics are considered, going out at high noon to face down the bad guys, or, going out and conquering the wilderness to set up a settlement. And rarely does it focus on women. And that's what's unique about this woman. It focuses on Vivian.
Wow.
It is the focus of the film. And Mortensen is very gracious in that. He steps aside for long parts, and it's just all her. And for her to stay there on her own, for her to, eke a life out in this horrible climate. I mean, it's this sort of realism and sort of heroism that we never talk about, and that's really the focus of the film. It really is a neat little concept, and one that, needs to be, the focus of more films. Really neat movie. It was a movie that, as I talked to them, I ended up liking more than I thought. Made some really good points about the characters, what his intention was. And, sometimes you and I, we've talked about this, how we see a movie and sometimes we don't have the time to really think about what we think, to discuss, to just let it turn over in our mind a little bit so that, you can come up with a more solid opinion. So I was glad I talked to them, because I was lukewarm about it, and then I ended up really, in retrospect, liking it more than I realized the first time. So it's in theaters. So check it out. It's a movie that needs to be seen on a big screen. And I hope you get around to it, because I think you'll really like it.
I'm sure I will. I mean, I love both of those two main actors in this, Viggo and Diane. And they choose their roles wisely, especially for independent films. I don't think there's one indie film that I have seen that I haven't liked. And Viggo Mortensen, this isn't his first time directing or writing a film either. Do you remember the name of the other one, of father-son relationship
Oh,
story? That was that I
yeah.
saw it at Sundance.
Yeah, and it had one of my favorite lines of dialogue ever
At the
in that
end, right?
movie. Yeah, it was with Lance Hendrickson, and Vigo played his son, who was gay, and the name of the film was Falling.
Falling, that's right. And
And his father, played by Hendrickson, is a bigot and just can't understand his son. And yeah, that was an interesting movie as well.
I think he shot that well, and he was able to allow us inside his mind. So I am looking forward to seeing The Dead Don't Hurt, and I appreciate you doing the interview, although I would have killed to do that interview.
Uh, I met
What's,
him once
did
at the
you?
Critics Show award show. Yeah,
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, maybe he'll be there again this year. Who
I
knows?
would hope so. I
That
would
would be
hope so.
great.
Yeah, yeah. Sweet man, sweet man. And you know, make sure to, if you can, see it in the theater.
Very good. I will do that. Another movie out is Hitman, which is on Netflix. I believe that was released in theaters for a couple of weeks.
Right.
I'm not sure why they released it in the theaters first. I don't know how it's doing in the theaters. Do you have any info on Rotten Tomatoes on that one by any chance? You're usually
I
up on
do. I do not, because Netflix doesn't release those numbers.
that. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they don't release numbers as far as the grosses of the films that they put in theaters. So no one knows. They
Okay.
will, though, go out of their way to release numbers of views when a film or a show streams, but no, they keep that under wraps.
Interesting. I did not know that. All right. Well, it's streaming, or going to be streaming on Friday, I believe. It stars Glenn Powell as Gary Johnson. He's a fake hitman for hire who works for the New Orleans Police Department, trying to catch criminals who are trying to kill their counterparts or somebody. Here's the crazy part. It's based on a true story.
Mhm.
I was shocked when I learned that. So let's go back to the premise of the story. Gary is like this nerdy, brainiac college professor. He teaches psychology with a smattering of philosophy in there as well. And to me, that was the really interesting part of this, because he's teaching all about like Freud's ego, superego, and id, and how they're always in battle with one another inside your head. Meanwhile, he has to become a hitman, because the guy, or the fake hitman for the New Orleans Police Department, because the guy who usually does this has gotten into a little bit of trouble. So he's no longer on the undercover team. So Gary is thrown into a situation and proves to be quite good at it. I guess he was very in touch with his theatrical skills as a youngster, and he channeled all of these different characters that he created, these different hitmen to have people hire. They basically entrapped these people, and stopped crimes from being committed. So he's really battling with who he is as a person, because he takes all these undercover jobs on and becomes another person. The one person that he becomes is Ron. And Ron ends up meeting with Madison, played by Adria Aronia, and she wants her husband killed. Well, he's going to try and save her from A, going to jail, and B, committing murder, and talks her out of it. He comes off as Ron, this person who I think more like as Glenn Powell would play, this very suave, smart, confident, handsome, debonair man. And wouldn't you know it, they fall for each other. So the part that kills me, no pun intended, is is that this was predictable until a point. And hold on, until a point. And the point is the love story and what happens when the two become ensnared with one another. This really created this psychological dissonance. The whole thing is about psychology,
Right.
and this did not mesh. It did not create a believable character. And then I started thinking, what is wrong here? What is actually true in this story? So then I had to look up, what is actually true. And doing that little bit of research, Richard Linklater, who co-wrote with Powell and directed this film, took some poetic license with the love story. The real Gary apparently did help a woman who was in an abusive relationship, but he didn't have a love affair with her. And to me, it's this love affair that makes this story spiral out of control and go down. I always felt like they were writing themselves into a corner that they couldn't get out of in a meaningful, logical way. This is all about logic. This is all about psychology, and it didn't follow that. I wish they would have stuck to the real story because it's a crazy true story. I think somebody other than Powell would have been appropriate in this, because if you would have taken out that love story, and as my daughter Kelsey suggested, putting in somebody like Rainn Wilson in the main role, that would have been a little bit more fun of a character. We're not doing the love story anymore. Throw him in there as the nerdy brainiac who goes undercover, and he's a little bit on the nutso side. And then you look at the credits, and they show the real Gary Johnson, and I got to tell you, Rainn Wilson might have been good for that. I just didn't buy him in this role.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Okay. I've never been a fan of Glenn Powell. Okay. I know why you're a fan, but I've never, people are saying he's the next big thing. And I just don't quite get it. But I really enjoyed him in this movie. I liked him because he was nerdy, because he was cool, he was everything. And I think the thing that made the movie for me was the fact that, the teacher is teaching himself. He's throwing this stuff out to his students about challenge yourself and live outside your comfort zone. He finds himself doing that.
He didn't learn from what he was trying to teach his students, though. There was never that light bulb that came on that said, oh man, I'm this is what I'm doing, and there's something wrong here. That would have been the aha moment that I would like to have seen.
What was he doing wrong?
What was he doing wrong? He was becoming Ron, and this
right.
Ron had a different life, and he was hiding it from the rest of his colleagues at the police department. And then he goes down that really, really dark road.
Right, but he doesn't act on the darkness completely. He pulls in the rain.
Really?
Yeah, he doesn't kill anyone. He never kills anyone.
Okay.
He steps back and he tries to save her. And when her husband ends up dead, it's like he's shocked because who ended up doing it? He never killed anyone. He was always able to put on the brakes.
Okay, I think we might disagree on that. I don't want to give any spoilers away, but we're going to have a little chat after this podcast is over.
Okay, I don't know, maybe if you wandered away or something while you were watching.
Maybe you fell asleep because you missed a vital thing.
No.
All right, well,
you say so.
Okay, we'll chat afterwards, and everyone who's listening, shoot us a message or post something, because I think Chuck missed something.
Yeah, I enjoyed this much more than I thought I would.
Good.
I really, but Linklater is always good. He's always good as far as that's concerned. So I thought it was fun. I thought it was fun.
Did you like Boyhood?
Yes, very much.
Okay.
Very, very much. Okay. I'd be hard pressed to come up with a movie of his I didn't like, quite frankly.
Okay.
I have to go back and look, but no, I think he's real solid, Linklater.
Okay. He did some things that I didn't even know that he did.
School of Rock.
Yes, did not know that he did that. So fun movie. All right, so we're gonna agree.
Oh, wait a second. I know what you're talking about as far as he's concerned. Yeah. But you know what? I think of her having done it.
No.
And you do things for love. That's all I'm just going to say.
Okay. All right.
I'm just going to. All right. You do things for love.
You heard it here. I was right, and you were wrong.
It's not a matter of being right or wrong. You're wrong about the movie. I'll tell you that.
Well, we will agree to disagree on that one. But he goes down too dark. And then the final portion of the movie, that final scene, it was just ridiculous that you can have that. The ending was horrible to me.
The last scene didn't work. No. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I didn't take it as seriously as you did. I don't think. Okay.
All right. Okay. On to the next movie. What else? Oh, now we have one that we're going to actually agree on. Right? Tell us about.
You can thank me for this one.
Oh, I will thank you for this one, because somehow that didn't come through my email and you got it all straightened out for me. Tell us about Hard Miles.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to let you do it because I have
No,
a
you do
feeling,
it. You
you
do it.
liked it more than I did, and I did like it. Matthew Modine. What happened with Matthew Modine? Why wasn't he um, the major star that everyone thought he would be? Was it a conscious choice on his part,
I don't know.
or because he was going to be it through the late '80s, early '90s? I mean, he just was on the cusp of greatness there, and yeah, it just didn't quite happen for him. I mean, he's always been around.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so yeah, I've always liked Matthew Modine. He did that great World War II movie, Memphis Belle, and what was the Vision Quest? Was that him?
I don't know.
When he was younger, he was a high school wrestler or
Yes,
something.
yes, yes, yes. That was
And
him. Yep.
that was a good one too.
Yep.
And I know, yeah, my son, my 20-year-old son, Grant, watched this film with me called Hard Miles. And of course, he knows him from Stranger Things.
Oh, okay.
So, he's always been there, but it's just like, just never got to that point that I thought he would. It's funny how sports movies, as I always tell my kids when we do sports movies, they're never about sports. They're always about life. It's not about
Right.
sports.
Right.
And this one, Hard Miles, of course, is definitely that. And it's funny that these things are so predictable. They're so predictable. I mean, they follow, beats that you could set your watch by. And yet, I think that's the greatest challenge of any sports movie. We know what's going to happen, yet if you can still suck me in, you're really doing it right, you know? Um, this movie reminded me a lot of McFarland USA,
Yes. Yeah.
uh, a sports movie that I love. And then there was one not too long ago, The Long Game,
Yeah.
uh, about the golfers, the
Yeah.
high school golfers. Those two really work, and so does Hard Miles, which is based on a true story. This guy named Greg Townsend. Um, he works for a juvenile detention center, and I did some reading about him. Did you look this guy up?
I did.
Yeah, really incredible stuff that he does. Instead of you know, getting kids in group therapy and talking to these troubled kids about, their feelings and their background and everything, he throws them on bikes and they take cross-country bike trips. And this film is supposedly about the first trip that they
Right.
took. The Academy's in trouble. Apparently, there's accreditation things for these types of places. They're about to lose theirs, and the guy who's running it say, we need a feel-good story here. We need something to get attention. And Townsend is a biker. He was going to go on this cross-country trek on his own, but he's like, okay,
That
I'm
was
going
his
to take.
vacation.
Yeah, it was his vacation. He's going to take the 4 hardest cases, put them on bikes, and take them along. And he's going to teach them the value of teamwork. He's going to teach them what it means to look out for one another, because if you don't, everyone fails. But more importantly, he teaches them about themselves, makes them realize what they're actually capable of, pushes them to their limits. Just really, really, basic stuff, but stuff that people don't do. They don't realize. And all of this, of course, comes true. Stunning film. I mean, I don't know where they started, but the destination is the Grand Canyon, 762 miles away.
They started in Denver, downtown Denver, right
Denver, is
at
that where that
Fort
was?
Collins exit for 25 North. Yeah. I mean, I was just there
Okay.
yesterday,
Okay.
right
I
off the
didn't know
highway.
where they were starting from. That makes
Yep.
sense if they started from Denver, because they got to go through the mountains, and one of the most harrowing scenes, God, that I've seen really in quite some time, has one of these kids on a runaway bike going down the mountain after they've done a vertical mile.
Oh,
Jesus, that in and of itself, I found myself breathing heavy as they were
oh.
going with this damn thing.
Well, I was texting you while I was seeing that, and I was dropping F-bombs left and right. I
Yeah.
I do ride my bike in the mountains, or I did when I was doing triathlons out in Utah. And I went up toward Deer Valley from Park City, and I don't know if it's a full vertical mile or not, but I was going so slow up the hill that I
How
fell.
could you not?
you know? And then
Well,
I turned around at a certain point because I couldn't go any further. and I was going 43 miles an hour downhill. I burnt out my brakes on my bike. You could smell them burning. I was scared to death. And then watching this scene, I felt it, and I can still
Yeah.
feel my hands, my palms of my hands are sweaty just
Yeah, I
thinking
was waiting
about
for
it.
this kid to just run off the cliff. I mean, it was going to happen because how do you even control that?
Yeah.
Um, like I said, these movies are predictable, but when they're done right, and this one is done right, I mean, it's we live in such a horribly cynical time. And I think that movies like this are more important now than they ever have been, because we need to be reminded of, how important kindness is, how important believing in someone is, and how that feels when someone believes in you. And I
Right.
know I sound like, hokey as hell, but really, really, this really is important. And I thought that really this film drove that message home very effectively.
Oh, it absolutely did. The other thing about this was never, I don't even know if there was music. Was there music? Can't tell you if there was music or
There
not.
was, but it wasn't overpowering.
No.
It wasn't, music that told me how to feel.
No, no,
Yeah,
no,
I hate.
no. Yeah, I hate that too. And that takes away the credibility and the
I
authenticity of
agree.
the story. So I didn't even notice that. I felt like I was really watching these poor kids from different parts of the community who were struggling for various reasons. They were gritty, they were real, there was such authenticity with their performances. I never felt like I was watching actors. And the same thing with Matthew Modine. He he to me became Greg Townsend, the social worker. That, his life wasn't perfect either. This was a richly done story, which I don't think you always get with these types of stories either. I put air quotes around that. A
Right,
lot of times it's a pretty one-dimensional type of story, but Greg had his issues in his family too, and they alluded to that in the very beginning, but they only just gave you a little sprinkle of something, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit
right.
more. By the end, we understand what's going on in his life, and the kids begin to understand him as well. So to me, this was a really rich story, not just about the kids learning something, healing through nature, healing through somebody believing in them, but also Greg's journey to become a better person himself.
Yeah. Well,
I
again,
loved it.
we need to be reminded of those things.
Yeah, yeah,
We forget those things. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And this is one that needs to be sought out, and needs to be found. I know it was released in some theaters on a very limited basis a couple months ago. Now
right.
it's on video on demand. You can find it through, Amazon, Hulu, whatever your streaming source is. I mean, you can find it there, starting this week. And yeah, really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, great cast. Cynthia K. McWilliams plays Hattie, the woman who breaks her leg and ends up going along with him on the trip. She was wonderful. Jackson Kelly plays Smink. I had never seen him before. He's been in a
No,
couple of movies. And Jaking Glory, who plays Woolbright, wonderful. All the kids were just absolutely wonderful. I can't recommend this highly enough,
yeah, yep, that's
especially
good.
if you work with kids.
Yep, yep.
Chuck, are there any other movies that we want to talk about? I think we just wanted, I did want to mention a little bit about the TV series Trying. Season 4 is
Okay.
out.
I know
Um,
you really like that one.
yeah, it's a series that's near and dear to my heart. I did an interview with Rafe Spall, and that's Timothy Spall's son, and Esther Smith recently. And that part of that interview will be aired on Racine and Me on Sunday at 7 a.m. Um,
Good.
and and also you can check it out on our YouTube channel, Real Talk with Chuck and Pam, our EEL. So check that out if you haven't. It's streaming on Apple TV. They've dropped, I think, 1 or 2 episodes, and the rest of the episodes will come each week until July 3rd or 7th or somewhere around in there. But I really want to talk about how things are going in movie theaters right now, and what do things look like? You
Oh,
kind of enlightened me. I've been in my own little world for the past month, so I haven't been on top of things like I should be.
things are not good. I think the industry is in big trouble. And they have been, they haven't gotten their feet under them since COVID, and then of course, after COVID, the writers and the actors strike. It was stupid of the studios to allow that to happen.
Right.
And we're paying for it now, because of the writer's strike. The roster of films, the number of films coming out is going to be really thin, uh, throughout this year and bleeding into next year. So, and people aren't going to the theaters. I mean, we had the worst Memorial Day in over 30 years.
Really?
Yes, the worst Memorial Day in over 30 years. And surefire things aren't hitting. I mean, I would have thought Furiosa would have been a huge hit.
I'm
It's gonna be,
shocked.
it's gonna be lucky to break 80 million here. If the Krasinski film with Ryan Reynolds, it has bombed.
Yeah.
Fall Guy has done okay, but not what they thought it would, with Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt in it. The Planet of the Apes film has been a modest success. I think it's been the biggest hit so far, but nothing that's setting the world on fire. It's just there's so many factors against going to the theater. It's too damn expensive,
It is.
and the studios have shot themselves in the foot. I mean, for years they have wanted to shrink that window between when a movie's in theaters and when a movie is available at home,
Right.
because they get more of that money. And now that you only have to wait a couple weeks now for it to be there, what's the incentive of going to the theater? I know The Fall Guy was available at home 3 weeks after it came out,
Okay.
because it was doing so poorly at the box office. They shoved it over there much sooner than they should have.
Right.
Um, they're not allowing movies to find an audience. If the first weekend's bad or doesn't reach their expectations, they write it off.
Right.
And that's a big mistake, a huge mistake. They need to let audiences find these movies, especially if there's not going to be as many of them coming out this year.
Right. Right.
So yeah, they're in trouble. They're in big trouble.
But you enlightened me about theaters and theater owners are coming up with novel ways of trying to keep their doors open, basically. And one of the things that you had noticed is one of the theaters is it Decatur, that the owner there, and he closes his doors on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, he's got 3 theaters down there, small independent operation. And yeah, those days are dead for him, as they are for most theaters. So
right.
why be open?
Right.
He just closes them up. I know it'll never happen, but I think that all the chains should do that. Close up on Monday and Tuesday night. Create
Right.
an urgency to see in the movies then. But I know Marcus Theaters and AMC, no, not AMC, but the Savoy Theater down here, Phoenix Theaters, they have Tuesdays where it's $5.
Right. Classic Cinemas does that as well.
I-
And I if I have to see a movie that I've missed, that's when I go.
And people are there. I mean, who
Yeah.
would think you would go on a Tuesday night? But they do. And I know Marcus also, I think they cut their popcorn prices in half.
Okay.
I've stumbled in there too, and it's like, holy shit, this is how weekends used to be.
Right.
Um, and the guy, and I read an article, and the guy in Decatur was thinking about this too. An article also said, cut the ticket prices.
Yeah.
I mean, the studios get most of that,
Yeah.
and the theater's job is to get butts in seats so that they will buy that popcorn and buy that other stuff. So,
Right.
it only makes sense to cut prices too. So
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see how they handle this, because, they're in trouble, big trouble.
There's another cool little thing that's going on that I'm kind of excited about, and it's the mystery preview movie.
Yes. Marcus Mystery Movie. I'm looking at it right now.
Okay. Okay.
Theaters and AMC, they both do it. And the next one is on June 17th.
Okay. We don't know
June-
what it is, but it'll be an early screening of something.
Right, June 17th at 7 o'clock at Marcus Theaters and AMC Theaters. $5, you're going to see a movie that will be released within the next week or two. You don't know what it is. So it's a surprise. They have told us here that it's rated R.
Okay.
And they always give you a heads up if it's a horror film, so that people who don't like those things can stay away.
Right.
So I'm going to go on the 7th. I'm going to try and go on the 17th. Oh, I can't. Okay. On the 17th and see what's going on there. But yeah, you can see that they're trying things, but they don't advertise. I mean, when you and I were growing up, we'd open up the newspaper, there would be ads.
Right.
It's like, oh, okay, I'm going to go see this. Oh, I do this. How do they advertise anymore? I mean,
You
on their
know,
website?
I don't know. I know people, some people, old people like me, have regular TV channels and they do advertise on like regular TV channels, but who has that anymore?
No, but I mean, movie theaters, they don't
Oh,
have,
oh, oh,
I mean, to get the word out for, Half Price Tuesdays
oh,
or the mystery movies. I mean, no one knows about these things. So how are they going to be successful?
yeah. I
Um,
didn't know about the mystery movie thing. That's pretty darn cool.
exactly. And this is your job.
I
So
know.
they've done a crappy job of getting the word out. And it's so ironic because in this era of so many ways to communicate, they're not.
Yeah, maybe too many ways. And the algorithm is too restrictive,
You know, they got to get on the tick and the talk and let the kids know $5 movies on Monday, get out of here. You know,
Love the article before the noun.
yeah, I can do that. I'm old.
That's right. The Facebook, the whatever.
That's right.
I think that's it. We've got an exciting couple of weeks coming up. We'll let everybody know about that. I don't think we can tell anybody about it yet, can we?
Not quite, I don't think. I
Okay.
don't think.
All
Yeah,
right.
some big stuff coming up. And there's a movie coming out next week called Ghostlight.
Oh,
And
yes.
please watch that so that we can talk about it. It's the best film I've seen this year.
I'm
And
watching
I'm
it tonight.
really anxious to see what you think about it. And
Okay.
I hate saying that because I always end up overhyping things and you come back and say, yeah, yeah,
I'm
So,
excited to see that one. That one was part of the Chicago Critics Film Festival, I
right.
believe. It is a Chicago film. So I'm excited to see it. I'm actually hoping that my link is still alive and I can watch it tonight. So,
If not, believe me, request another link.
okay. All right. I will check as soon as we are done here. I think that wraps it up for another episode of Real Talk with Chuck and Pam.
Sounds good. Stop back next week, everybody. We got a ton to talk about, and we'll do our best to cover it all.
Sounds good. Cheers, Chuck. Thank you.
Uh-huh.